Remembering this episode being the musical, despite not remembering all the songs, gave me the urge of possibly doing a review off of this episode, mainly the fact that it took a while for me to get into the logic of this show when it comes to imagination, and this is an episode is something that people should really watch if they're new to the series when it comes to the imagination nature of Craig of the Creek. This episode's entire plot is, with the rainstorm happening outside, none of the kids will be able to go to the creek to hang out. Craig's dad gave him advice on using his imagination to make him think that he's going to the creek, which leads to the entire episode filled with 7 songs. I Wish I Were at the Creek is the first song, which is really entertaining when it comes to the imagination being put into play. Do Ya Know isn't sung just by Craig, it's being sang by other characters in the creek that really gave this song more of a feel when it comes to Craig's imagination, because I'm just gonna be truthfully honest. If this was all happening in the real world, mainly the kids going to the creek, not everyone is going to burst out singing, especially out of multiple locations. The secret to unlocking multiple realities, sung by the scientist kid, sorry I don't remember his name, is somewhat uplifting to say the least, considering that it's mainly done for the one ideal on the fact that the characters need to figure out what the key is for, and with the scientist kid not understanding what the true intentions are, this is mostly a filler song that people probably wanted this kid to sing his solo when it comes to this entire episode. Trent carefully sung by the sewer queen while Craig and his friends go through the sewers is a different type of music that made me a little intrigued when it comes to the mystery of what the characters are going through, which is similar to the mysteries that they go through in previous episodes. But considering that this song is mainly done in a way that showcases of how much that the key's origins is mainly a mystery, then I can guarantee you that what the main character saw wouldn't happen in the real world of this universe. Half Orphan Hero, sung by Kelsey, is what describes Kelsey's point of view when it comes to her growing up, and this leads to a battle where the song takes a turn while her fantasy goes for a drive. Craig's imaginary monster when it comes to his imagination, that is. If anything, this does showcase the lighter sides of Kelsey, but when it comes to her fantasy, she goes full gear. But it's no surprise if anyone has watched this show before when it comes to enjoying Kelsey's character. Wide with JP, with this all still taking place in the point of view and imagination of Craig, he really knows Kelsey and JP better, and even though this isn't one of my favorite songs in this episode, you have to admit that Craig really knows the point of view of JP when it comes to his hobbies, and I really feel like that this song really showcases the quality of the song itself when it comes to JP being into trucks. The final song, The Creek is Everywhere, it's honestly the best song that they saved for last. And judging the fact that the storm still continues as this episode ends, it really makes this episode worthwhile when it comes to the ending of the episode, while it still rains, and the song itself, while everywhere is the creek. Granted, it wasn't really the case when it comes to the characters going back to the creek, but I can instantly forgive the characters mostly moving on by not remembering what Craig did in this episode, because all of this was taking place in Craig's imagination, and if every single character were inside the mind of Craig when it comes to the songs that he sung, I really feel like that This would have been a little bit more too special, but at the same time, a little too creepy when it comes to the characters being on board with this being a musical, while finding other ways to make this episode work. I'm not saying it isn't cute, but I feel like that the fan service of this episode of showcasing of what they did in the songs can literally be done in one point of view, while focusing on multiple characters at once when it comes to being part of the imagination would probably be a little claustrophobic. Granted, they will probably use their phones at all times to communicate with each other, but I'm sure another episode from another show did that for me. Even though I'm not really into musicals, for what this episode has executed the formula of musicals, maybe appreciate the show a lot more, especially the meaning of imagination when it comes to Craig himself. Honestly, this isn't one of the best episodes from the entire show, from my point of view, but when it comes to underrated, it's a lot more higher for that regard. This episode is on the same levels as the Loud House episode, Really Loud Music, while the entire episode is also a musical, with every single character singing a song. So that formula happening here really showcases that if you do that type of formula well, while making the songs entertaining, then something will come out of it, making it worthwhile. And for me personally, this was worthwhile after remembering that this episode was a musical during my binge watch of Craig of the Creek, because of all the episodes when it comes to this show in particular, this episode really came into mind. Even though we're not going to be having another episode involving the characters singing, due to the show officially ending months ago, you have to admit that this episode is worthwhile when it comes to everything else. While it's not one of the best episodes, it's still an episode worth sitting through, or in this case, listening to. I'm giving this episode a 7.75 out of 10.